Welcome back. We've been away for a little bit again because life is lifing, you know? This is Cindy Wells, the Mental Health Podcast. We discuss things that can be a little bit touchy sometimes, you know? We discuss things, that might get a channel demonetized on YouTube, things like that. And if that's not up your speed, that's not what you want to listen to right now, that's okay. But this podcast is for everyone, but it might not be for you. We're on episode 49, and we've realized something, that episode 50 is right around the corner, but we're not really doing a proper episode again because, of course, Joe is away on holiday. Joe, where are you?
I am in Greece.
So the audio quality might not be the best, but guess what? That's okay. You guys are pop with that for the first, 5 episodes? So I'm sure
sorry, let me get you used to my silky voice right now as it is.
I'm sure after a little bit of Audacity editing, we can make it work.
Yeah, I'm on, for those who know anything about Greece or just for people who are interested, I'm on Peloponnese, or it's like the southernmost mainland portion of Greece, and I'm on the west side, in between Genit Sohori and Zaharo. So those are Zahara. I forget how exactly how it's pronounced, but I'm between those two. Cities is a strong word. Town. And it's very nice here. We'll talk about it more later.
Yeah. But to be honest, in our little plan, we do have a mental health this week thing, but I'm not really going to introduce a mental health this week. I think it's something I want to discuss more broadly. So I'm not going to do the whole it's time for mental health this week thing. I'm just going to dive into it, really. Over the last few days, it's come out that Mikayla Rains of Save a Fox has sadly passed away by suicide. And I sounded really happy about that. I'm not. I'm devastated. I actually had a big old cry about it when the news came out. The reason why this is really important is because, of course, suicide is a mental health thing, but also the reasons behind it as well. Now, if you've watched Save a Fox, you know that they are an animal sanctuary which houses and cares for exotic pets, mostly foxes, domesticated foxes. A lot of the foxes they get were surrendered to them because people bought them and realized, hey, foxes are really cute and cuddly, but they also piss and shit everywhere. And a lot of people are overwhelmed by that, so they end up donating to Save a Fox and say, hey, this is my animal, can you take him? They run pretty much off donations. Donations are social media revenue. Really wholesome organization, and it is little to zero controversy about them. However, sadly, we live in a world in which people who do really good things often get vilified by really lazy, equally struggling themselves, people with no concept of what they say and do having a meaning of anything, you know? So Mikayla was a victim of very targeted harassment and bullying, and that sadly led to her passing away and committing suicide. I think it's really important now that we're in a state where we can discuss this openly. And I would love to sit here and say that I have faith that the people who did this, who caused this to happen, will be punished, but they won't be. I highly doubt that they ever will be. Primarily because we live in a world in which a lot of people can say things and there's very little responsibility taken for those things because they're behind the computer screen. Now, for context, the things that these people are saying are things that are completely untrue, ranging from Save a Fox is stealing money, Save a Fox is committing fraud against people, Save a Fox is abusing animals and they're not looking after any animals, Save a Fox is doing harmful things to the community of animal sanctuaries. Insert thing here. There's been never a single shred of proof about any of this stuff. Every single time a comment was made, the feedback was taken on board and they said, hey, we're right here, you can come and visit us. And I don't believe that anybody who made these harassing claims ever went to visit Save a Fox, because of course not. But these things stack up. Now, myself and Joe and I, we spoke about this at length before we hit record. And it's one of those things where social media is great for hundreds of reasons, but it's also detrimental and destructive for thousands of reasons as well. And Saber Fox for me, whenever I saw it and I engaged with it, was really positive. The people in the comments are really positive. The people are really engaging. The people are really like, active and wanting to help as well. And I realized that comment moderation is probably really key to that stuff. But also because I never thought of Saber Fox having a negative influence anywhere. I never really saw the harassing behavior until on a Reddit thread discussing her passing away. And straight away, I was shown the links to this stuff. Now, snark subreddits are dangerous to society.
Yeah, I'd never heard of these beforehand, by the way. This is a whole new thing for me.
And hopefully you don't have to hear too much about it. But like, effectively, it is a place where people who are very, very sad and, to put it bluntly, it's a place where cunts go to be cunts and feel like they're being heroes instead. Meghan Markle has one. Taylor Swift has one. Anyone who's like held to some sort of esteem probably has a snark subreddit where people have a go at them and cuss them. And they make up rumors about them and they actively brag about doing and saying hurtful things about them. For example, if you go to the Meghan Markle one, I think it's called Saint Meghan, it's just a bunch of racist old white women. I say old, I use the word old sparingly because I know people in real life who are my age who hate Meghan Markle. And they all have very similar characteristics to themselves, Very white, very brought up to feel a certain way, and have no intention of changing their mind. So you can imagine what that subreddit is. And they will openly brag about saying disgusting, helpful things about her. Then you have ones about Taylor Swift. And the first thing you think about is this. This is all men doing it. No, this is mostly women engaging with this stuff. And with Travis and Megan, I can't speak for the Saber Fox stuff. This is something where people are gossiping like you do in school. And that's been taken online. And these gossips and these rumors get spread further than anywhere in a playground ever would. And it's crazy to think that. So what you have with the Saber Fox situation is lots of like accusations that are baseless, but people are dumb enough to believe them and run with them. And now Mikayla was, I nearly said is, neurodivergent, autism, something that myself and Joe know quite well. And it is important that that is looked at as well. And people knew this. People knew the effect this could have, and they still push forward with a very, very purposeful, targeted campaign of harassment. Sorry, that's me. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. I've had a little bit of inspiration recently. Maybe I'll talk about it later. That is leading me to ask and state this because unfortunately I don't know about this channel and I did not know about this news. So I'm going to come at this from in the way that either of us would when discussing these topics, in which we have like lots to say, but don't have like enough personal to say. I'm wondering I'm wondering what this conversation should be in terms of. I would like the conversation to not care about these people online anymore. Like I'd like there to be the least amount of attention given to these kinds of people. And what I would want is to be able to say, what is the strategies for us? What is the strategies for us as people who are neurodivergent or neurotypical who are in these spaces? And in general, I think for maybe just those who are victims of shitty people with shitty ideas who don't have any concept of what being a good human being might conceivably be, whether we go into topics about whether they understand that or whether they're just being like how malicious they are being and how ignorant it is or whatever, that these people just don't get, just are in a bad place, in such a bad place even. But the question is, what do we do? I don't know the natural part of this, especially being online. If this ever gets big, if that City Worlds ever was to become a big thing, I'm lucky that I don't have a investment within social media outside of YouTube. And even then, like and to the extent of like YouTube, like I don't even tend to listen to our own podcast on YouTube, although I do sometimes. And But maybe if I did do it once in a while and I saw a bunch of comments, what am I going to see? There's a part of me that almost wants to teach a form of like, what's the right way of saying this? I almost want to teach. By the way, is not really what I want. What I more want to say is I want to discuss a a system of truly detaching oneself from internet like stuff in a way that's more radical than just simply saying like don't let things bother you and so on, or and it's more radical than even necessarily saying like, oh, I just don't engage with it, because while I because I want to say that I think it's important to recognize that lots of people have to, for their livelihood, and it's becoming more and more continuously true that people are having to rely upon social media for their livelihood. I'm not saying it's like a majority percentage or anything like that, but it's a growing industry, and also I think we're all way more connected to it than before. And so even if your livelihood isn't related, maybe your general like you know your livelihood in non-financial ways, like the things that you're invested in, the things you like, love, the communities you want to be a part of, etc. And the kind of response or the kind of relationship we need to actually have with these needs to be like there needs to be a kind of recognition of detachedness, which we are actually not able to do, or that we're not expected to do in real life to a certain extent. And I think it also explains why neurodivergent people, I think, are going to suffer the most from these sorts of things, because because I mean, I know for a fact that if I was to engage with social media the way other people do, I would be the amount to which I would be like catastrophically destroyed by it is undeniable. I think it is almost a self-selecting process here that just prevents me from engaging with it, because I mean, not to get too specific about it. Actually, I won't do it then. But I was just thinking about an example in my head of something which I hate so much using it that I stop myself from being able to use it. And they also happen to be spaces that can be really problematic and difficult to use. But because I'm so sensitive to it, it actually prevents me from it. And I'm lucky in the sense that I don't have to really rely on it. And I've not gotten used to relying on it as such. I've gotten used to relying on other things, but I've managed to avoid this one that other people seem to have a problem with. And there's a part of me, and it's very easy for me to be able then to say something like, "Oh, just don't engage with it," or something like that. But I think that's too simplistic, and I think that's also missing the point, because it's not about you. You're not the problem in this situation. The problem is other people making toxic in these spaces. You mentioned that while we recognize these places are perfectly uh, uh, wonderful places, and for lots of people can actually be the connection that they have, not just because a lot of people have replaced some more kind of local physical connections with these connections, but some people do rely on them, and it's actually a very good, not substitute, but actual like mainstay thing for them, because they are going to struggle in other ways that can't really be overcome so easily. And in fact, a lot of these things can actually help people to in real life overcome certain things. There are ways in which these groups and communities can actually improve people's lives and help them in a sort of therapeutic way towards not needing to rely on them as much, even if they rely on them a rate quite a lot. Um, and it's important to recognize that this is all true. But then I think I think there has to be some more radical sentiment about how do we actually relate to this. Like in my head, the immediate thought was, read the internet like you're reading just assume everyone on the internet is a robot. Assume everyone on the internet is some like um is some you know like don't personify anyone's like text boxes. Like don't even personify like social media like accounts and things like that. Like truly look at them as completely different things from reality, and that's going to be difficult for people to do. Actually don't know how possible that is to do, but I want to stress that my instinct, because I think this is atrocious, everything that you've told me before the recording and during is is it's made me, despite me not knowing anything about this person previously, it makes me sick to imagine people engaging in things like this, and to do so with truly that level, that lack of self-awareness, and really, and I mean, in many cases there will be people who are truly maliciously trying to destroy someone's life, or hoping to hope that the person reads their comment and feels as bad as they want them to feel. And that just, to me, is like, like I just think that at a certain level, maybe we need to have a stance on this, about the way that we relate to this. And in fact, no, you actually can't have like we can try to develop communities on the internet, but and we should, where possible. But I think, when I'm describing a community on Discord that I'm a part of, I'm not describing the same thing as what you're describing here, and what inevitably pushed into the ecosystem of her, of her life.
Yeah.
And there needs to be something. I think there needs to be a stronger backlash to this, which is less about, which is, I want solutions. You know what I mean? I want solutions, and I want solutions that aren't just remove yourself from it, and I want solutions that aren't just ignore it. I want better than that. I want to be able to, I want to be able to say to someone, the way you should look at this is as follows. And I want that person to be able to look at it, look at like these like mean comments and laugh. That's what I want them to do. I want them to be able to engage with this space and be able to find amusement in it. I want them to be able to look at how pathetic people are, and and honestly get a little bit of an ego boost out of it, of just recognizing how stupid other people can be sometimes. I want people not to feel made like unconfident and lose parts of themselves and parts of who they are as human beings, and feel anxious and tragic, and made to feel like they're less of a person on the basis of what some gobshite says on the internet, and what
I
people
think
make up. I almost, like it's so it makes me angry, and I want to feel angry in a different way. I want to feel angry, and or rather, I don't want to feel angry. I want to feel amused.
I think the issue with this all is that, like, in regards to Saber Fox and other people as well, we've seen it, it's a livelihood sometimes, and you care about something so
Yeah.
much. Like, you've seen me deal with similar, and I had to get police involved and things like that as well. And like, there's never any proof of these things, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like someone says something, but you feel like there's a feeling involved where you feel like you are being intrinsically misrepresented, and you feel like you have to deal with that in some way, shape, or form. I found it difficult to be quiet about it, let police deal with it, like trust in the system. In my case, I think the system failed, but 9 times out of 10, like, it's so difficult to look at something and go, oh, it's fine, let it be. Especially because we're in a state now where, like, for example, if a, a rumor gains enough traction, well, what's the saying? Like, a lie's already gone around the world 3 times before the truth is even left, or whatever it is. Like, so many people believe things straight away, and it's hard because when you put in all the time and effort to building something like a saber fox, it's a sanctuary for animals. You hate to see it be torn apart, torn down, and every little comment will hurt a little bit. And my whole thing about solutions to this, I think Reddit needs to step up, but they won't because money. Snark subreddits need to go. Like, the subreddit is made for the purpose of hating somebody. It
Yeah, it's a
needs to
very
go.
strong timing for just any forum, personally.
You have to remember that Reddit also had like our jailbait for a very long time. They had multiple subreddits about drug dealing where you could buy drugs from people. Like, Reddit has had some awful subreddits in its time, and they tend to never really buckle until things actually happen, like in real
Mm.
life. Now, here's the thing. Snark subreddits are not good. There's no argument made for them that will make me go, oh, that one should stay. Even if there's one about Donald Trump, just hating on Donald Trump, that should go. Why? Because you can go to any other subreddit and do that. Like, but a subreddit dedicated to purposely hating somebody and spreading malicious and false things about them, you don't need that. If they're a
Yeah, and
bad
even if
person, I'll just say, if they're a bad person, then guess what? There'll be news that they're a bad person everywhere and you can engage with that. But you don't need a centralized location in order to hate on somebody. It's
yeah,
awful.
and to the point I was making earlier, like, you know, even if I would agree with people's comments about, let's say, get away from an individual, let's just say like a thing, like whatever it might be. I don't want like a forum to openly discuss, like, to openly discuss our dislike of something. Like, what I want to do is I want to have a space in which to discuss what can be done in response to something. I don't want a Donald Trump hate, like uh hate room. Like, that's to me, that's so powerfully ineffective. And I think ultimately I think it almost does nothing. I would argue it does nothing, in fact, and possibly
It
makes things.
does. Yeah, it makes things worse because there's nothing that can be gained from that either. Like,
Yeah, because I
like
think people just tire themselves out in it hating something, but the hate doesn't go away. Like, the
it never
dislike doesn't go
does.
away. They just tire themselves out doing
Well,
it.
it's your personality at this point. Like, you look at the Meghan Markle one. If you're on Reddit, find it now and tell me that isn't the most batshit insane, weirdo, creepy shit you've not ever like been a part of. An echo chamber of idiocy. And like, just look at their profiles. So I did this a couple of years back. I looked at the subreddit. I looked at the users, and I was like, these people are actually insane because here they are saying that saying like really, really fucking weird shit, like, you know, oh, she's the true racist, and you know, she gives black people a bad name, and do you know what? Blacks like her need to just shut up and die. And then on that same profile is like her being like, you know, there's this particular account being like, oh, you have to like back Kamala in the elections. We can't have Donald Trump win. I'm just like, this is the most batshit insane shit I've ever seen in my life. And you realize that people don't have the ability sometimes, because they're fucking stupid, to connect the stupid things that they do. So then they end up being a racist while also being like, oh, look at me. I'm not racist. They don't see that they're literally are just straight up a racist. And it's like, if you look through that subreddit, you see the weirdest juxtapositions of human beings in the world. People who don't understand how things work, people who don't understand what headlines are for, people who just buy hook, line, and sinker into anything. You can literally sell ice to them if they're, if they're Eskimos. Like, what's the point? Like, they're literally the lowest common denominator in reality. But society, they're still ingrained within us. So they still get to, you know, have things like white privilege and all that stuff. But in my mind, those people and incels are one and the same. If you're dedicated to a cause of hating somebody because of who they are, you're in the same bracket as incels for me. Because I'm not saying your ideology is the same, but the hating without any sort of rational thinking is there. Like,
Engaging in these spaces is not. It's not what a rational human being does.
well,
It's not what someone who's seeking a solution does either.
their solution is the end of that person.
Right. I mean,
That's the
that's
thing.
but that's bizarre, but that's like, if that is literally what they're going for, and I understand that may be the case, then those are people that are, you know, like you say, incel in nature. That's like, not even, there's no question about that. Like, you as
It's,
a human being are less than useful, are less than useless rather.
it's like there's so much that we could go into, but I think, you know, the main thing is like, and just to rehash what I said about like incels and how I feel about them, incels and people who are in snark subreddits and post to that stuff. I'm not saying they're the exact same people. No, I'm saying that the mindset is a rationally based hatred of the highest level for, again, irrational reasons. and
Not
it's
terminally online.
yeah, and terminally online, and it is that where there's a major similarity. Is where I go. They're one and the same. Not oh they're the same. You said that. No, it's more that. If you're on a Snark subreddit, you also listen to this show. You probably don't like this show anymore. And when you start the Snark subreddit about our show, eventually it will happen. Like, I'm not gonna fight to take it down, but I will flame it to the ground. like, um, I have ideas on how I have to combat that stuff because this is things that will happen in life. People will hate on you for no reason. Like, it's wild. But yeah,
Yeah, what bothers me, I think, is because we are talking so much about this, I think I can develop at some level a thick skin is entirely the wrong word. I think I can develop a foundation of what I think is important and what I think matters and what I think we're trying to do. What I think, like, by putting whatever we're putting out there, I feel happy about it and proud of it. And I have no intention of taking what anyone says, especially 50 episodes from now, let's say. Can you imagine? Um, whatever people are saying at that point, by that point, if I'm not proud of what we're doing, we will have stopped by now. They're just we just won't be doing it anymore. We won't enjoy it as much. We won't be feeling it. Like we'll continue to do this for as long as we feel right about it. There is a point where I go to something, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to see this, but like, let's say you send me a comment, or let's say you read a comment, and then I end up reading it as well, from some fucking group of people or just person who's saying some shit. I just I just have to believe that I have to believe at some level that I will not care on the basis of a confidence in what we're doing. But again, the problem is that it still requires a work from me, but at least it's not like victimizing me to kind of take that stance. Be like, no, I'm doing my shit. Fuck you. You are the bad person. There's no question here. Like you are the wrong one in this situation, and everyone should be on board with that. Everyone else, rational, should be like, yeah, shut the fuck up and go away. Like this is not like we don't want this. No one wants this. It's just you pathetic individuals that want this, and no one should be on the side but even if let me even take this slightly further and imagine for the sake of it that you're a person who engages with like content and let's say you have an opinion similar to someone else. Let's say you're just on the internet, you find someone who has an opinion similar to you about someone and they say something shitty on a forum like this. Even you should absolutely say fuck off and go away and die because that kind of person is not someone that we want. You can like have that opinion, like truly have that opinion, especially when we're just talking about like things you like, whether it's like YouTube channels or some artist or whatever. Who wants to hear your fucking voice about this? Who wants to? If you have an opinion, you're like, oh, I don't like this person as much, or I don't like this thing about them. Right, act upon it then. Do the thing that act upon your, how you feel, act upon your moral sense or whatever. Do what you want to do. But don't go fucking like chatting shit. And then when you see other people chat shit, even if you agree with them, tell them to fuck off and die because they're just not worth having around. They're just not. They apply nothing and give nothing to the world. And it's not me saying that negativity or critique is just like an absolute it's just a true thing that shouldn't exist. And I'm trying to silence anything and we only want positive people. No, it's just it turns out that what you're talking about has influence and consequence. And on top of that, it turns out that most people are so shit with giving even a simple critique of like of any kind that they don't know how to do it without sounding like they want to like bury someone under 6 feet for the basis of it. And on top of that, that it really provides nothing in large part. People feel there's a paradox. People feel that they're not going to be heard or that what they say doesn't really matter. So they shout it as loud as possible, while at the same time thinking that it matters what they say. And it's like, okay, so you're running with two completely contradictory notions there. Either you think that what you say matters, in which case you should be really fucking careful about what you say, because you're just a stranger on the internet. And again, read a comment like it's talking about you on the internet. Just go to a random negative comment that someone has and just assume it's about you. Just assume, and like really work on it and figure out what it would be like to see like 50 of them every single day minimum, right? And just imagine what that concept, like what that would be like for you personally. You know, whether it's about your job, whether it's about your art, whatever it might be that is personal to you and works for you. Then, and allow for the fact that we can have critique and we can have discussion and so on in positive spaces and in positive ways, and people just don't understand how to do it. And unfortunately, that comes down to that's when you have to be like, yeah, those kind of things only can exist in like moderated communities, like we were kind of discussing, and in ways where your name is actually recognized and memorable. I was just, as a last point to this, because I want to point out like what people's expectations might be around this, and also why I very much still despise the the putting on of the burden onto like the artist or the person that's online. Day Nine is it's someone who I don't watch like super regularly, but I have watched a lot over the years, and is someone who, when I watch his streams, Day Nine was a old StarCraft 2 player, very very famous, very very good, and is now, I don't believe he's in his 40s, but he's in his late 30s at the very least, I believe, and has been on the internet for a very long time, on Twitch for a very long time, like back in the old days when he used to be called, I can't remember what the name of it was, but something completely different. And so he has a very particular perspective of all this. And whenever he has a stream, he actually spends a lot of time, like there's a lot of moments in the stream where he'll stop what's going on because someone makes a comment, and the comment is a really stupid comment or a comment that doesn't make sense and needs to be explained as to why it's bad. Someone gets banned or whatever. There's a lot of effort that he puts in to try to teach people how to communicate properly on the internet. He does it a lot. It happens way too often. And sometimes this is in even like sub only, as it's put, like subscriber only, like people who pay to watch him, um, to watch him with perks. Sometimes he puts it in subscriber only chat, specifically for the purposes of like sometimes he's playing a game and people would really really shit about it. The point is that by the end of it, you realize how much energy he's putting in, and also, though he does have a lot of other projects, I think it definitely pushes him away from engaging with it as much as you otherwise might. It makes it harder to enjoy the thing, and again a burden on him and not a burden on the people who are watching. And I think we need to be like way more serious and just like, yeah, fuck you, and way more open about that point. And we really need to be less tolerant of this kind of behavior, because it's not. It's easy to spin it one way or another, and I think we need to bite the bullet and say, uh, you know, whatever like spin you're trying to give to this, that's not what's happening. I know it might feel like your voice is being, removed, or like you're or whatever. You're on the fucking internet in some random person's stream. You're in some random forum. You're in whatever. Get over yourself. If you're an adult, then seriously get over yourself and stop being such an asshole to everyone, because you are providing nothing, and you, quite frankly, are a completely meaningless spot on the canvas of what should be a place of connection. So
Yeah. And now we're in to what would be the genre, but we're not doing that today. And on a happier note, on a more positive note, you're on holiday, Joe.
I am. It was a relatively um hastily done thing. Like I don't know how long I had. I think maybe like a month or so to like get into it. Normally, like these sorts of week-long holidays don't quite occur that way. I'm sort of going to pay back the holiday after the fact, because I didn't quite have the money to pay for it up front. But I'll be paying my fair share as we go along. It's been really nice. Greece has been really nice. I always recommend well, I don't recommend because that's not really true. I always engage with like the philosophy that I should learn anything cultural or linguist or language and stuff around the country I'm going to, even if it's a very minor thing. I want to be able to say one thing or another, and it's been really fun. Like um, Duolingo and borrowing books from the library. I've gotten enough of a sense of things that I can read Greek, which is not something to be clear. I can read the letters. I'm not saying I can read every Greek word and know what it means. I'm saying like I can look at a word and I could pronounce it out loud, like spoken. Um, which is just something that once not that long ago I had no way of doing, and I've really enjoyed it. We went to like probably the biggest thing we did was we went to the sanctuary of Olympia, which is where the Olympic Games is sort of started. Um, in like the I'm not quite sure what century it would be, but it's like 600 or 400 century BC. Um, and it's just loads of ruins. It was really interesting going around there and checking it out. I would recommend this area. Like I said, the Peloponnese is this mainland. There's quite a lot of like ruins and things like that. Got quite a lot of hills. It's hot, boy. I mean, I think it's currently around 34 degrees or so right now. Although apparently in London that's not that crazy.
Yeah, it's like
It's still very.
24 degrees today.
Is it 20? Wait, did you say 24?
Yeah, it was 30 a couple of days ago.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. So normally, yeah, for a while, like London has been like 30 something temperature for a bit. So that's pretty. So yeah, Worcester has been nice, but not quite as good as that. Um, uh, the Kyparissia rather, the Gulf of Kyparissia is a very nice coastline, and there's lots of and it's just a beautiful place. It's relatively rural where I am. Like I'm not near cities and stuff, and I really want to come back to Greece. I want to, go to some more major cities. I want to go to some more like specific, uh, like areas, like ruined areas. Like Athens apparently is really good to go in winter, because it's otherwise incredibly hot, incredibly busy, and so on. But like January time, my mum and auntie went there once, like many years ago, and apparently, they're still walking around with like t-shirts on. So it's not like you're not really missing out, and you're still going in like the winter time, so it's probably worth doing. Um, what else are we doing? Going into the sea. It's been very nice. Something here that I've noticed, which in most other places that I've been to in Europe, with like Mediterranean coastline and so on. Um, Actually, in Italy, I found that this wasn't the case in quite a lot of areas, but there's lots of areas in now where like the beach is essentially like privatized to a certain extent. Um, where you can't even like sit in certain areas where there are sun lounges, because like not on the sun lounge, like you just can't sit within an area of them because they're sort of like owned by like a restaurant or something like that, and they'll make you pay just for even being in the area. Whereas there are twice that we've been on sun lounges here, and pretty much the experience has been for those two times it's either free to be on the Sun Lounger, or you pay like I don't know €5, which is like I don't know, not very much, like £4.50 or something per person, not per person, per two people basically. Um, and the only quote unquote downside is you have to order something from the bar. And it's like, oh, okay, so I am getting something out of it, but I am paying more than £4.50 or whatever. But we are getting a drink or food or whatever you want. So it's like, normal holidaying stuff that you would like to do. It's just way more civil and way more, and way less of like you're being shafted. And it's not like you have to buy a ton. It's like, oh, I just bought a single drink while I was here, and while I was here for like 4 hours, 4+ hours or whatever. Um, and my niece is here as well. Like I love being with her. She's uh, she's 12 now, which means she's going through lots of different things in her life, and it's great to be around her and talk to her, and see how she is developing in her cognitive sense about the world and everything like that. How she feels about things is cool. Um, and I love these moments as spontaneous as it was. So this doesn't always happen. Like I'm glad for these moments because just for the moments of connection that I miss out on. It's made me think a lot about traveling, though. I will say, like, not this specifically on its own, but I've generally been thinking about traveling a lot. Not like for necessarily extended periods of time, but like me and you have talked about uh, going on trips, whether
Yeah,
it's with Kessis and Tolga, or not with them, like in a separate like excursion. And I think probably for the next couple years, I think that is going to be my motivation. I think I think I
it's
am going to
definitely
be
mine.
saving up for that sort of thing because I think I enjoy it a lot, and I think that there's a lot to gain from it. And not to do the most touristy thing. Obviously, like I'll try to most of the time do more. Um, do a bit more like, oh, I'll stay at these sorts of places and then like travel to this other place and things like that. Do a little bit more of that kind of thing rather than just simply going and doing the very touristy thing and sort of enforcing that kind of those kind of cultures is the wrong word, but like those like kind of economic systems that mean that a place is kind of relied upon for that. Obviously, I don't really have a problem with tourism in and of itself. Like, some places are just beautiful places that people want to flock to. That's fine. Um, it's just I feel bad for places that rely on it so much year to year that if like some bad press happens, then it could be like the livelihood of people is lost. Um, and I also just think that like there is a lot more to the experience of going to other places than just going to the most touristy bit. Um, Even though I'm absolutely up to going to touristy stuff, like I still want to go to Amsterdam
Yeah,
and
yeah,
do
yeah.
the
That's
fun
the thing we
stuff.
gotta do.
Yeah. Um, but I have ideas. I think this also comes from the fact that my brother, he's now settled in Australia. I won't say which city, but he's settled now in Australia. He's found a place to live. For those who didn't, I don't know if I actually described this very much on the podcast before. He'd been traveling in Asia for a while, for almost 3 months, roughly. So yeah, because he left in April. Yeah, so not even 3 months. So in April, early April, he left, and then it's he's now settled in Australia, and he's going to be there for a year and a bit at least, or something like that. Um, he's having a good time. Looks like a nice place that he's living at and stuff. And definitely watching him, because he traveled on his own. He ended up being with a sort of group at one point, but it has made me like kind of consider like what it is I like doing, and I really do like being in other places and learning other things and engaging in different in things that exist outside of England, because fuck me. England's fine for lots of things, don't get me wrong, but like there's a lot about of Britishness you could say that I'm not like a super huge fan of, that I would like to at least like dabble outside of. Um and I also just think that it comes to a stale. There's a staleness thing that I definitely feel, like a general boredom I have with like wherever I am, and I like to discontinue that and actually you know do other things and enjoy other things elsewhere. Um, so nothing like spectacular with this holiday. Like I'm not. It's not like revolutionize my thinking or anything. But I am absolutely coming back to Greece because it's beautiful. Um, and there is so much history here that I really want to explore further. There are limitations with the group I'm with for doing all of that, unfortunately. But I would love to with some friends, maybe, who knows, or even just on my own, honestly, to kind of engage with these and enjoy them in a way that I haven't, because I said this before, that like Tunisia was like was the first holiday I did that had no family involved, because I've just been shit about that, and I had other things in my life I needed to like work out mentally and personally in order to grow to the point where I can actually do independent things like that. Um, and so now that I'm in this position, I feel way more interested. Well, it's kind of like now that I've had the taste for it, I really want to keep going. I really want to, and I've fucked up in all the ways you can fuck up so far. Um, well, maybe not all of them, but some of them. So I feel way more confident, weirdly, about doing it, because now I know the lessons and I know how to think like I know what to do. I'm going to be way more, pay more attention, be way more cautious, but at the same time, way more confident about my actions, more controlled, more considerate. And yeah, I really hope to kind of continue this sort of thing in the long term. But that's that's a very like middle picture perspective at this point. The rest of my life, I have no idea. But this sort of thing, I have an idea about.
Yeah, like I think yeah, it's a lot of things that we got to do together, and we're now at a point now in our lives where we can do these things. So,
Yeah, I
like
was
the
saying this to
question
my mum
is,
actually, because
yeah,
we didn't
there's
do
not
them
much
as much,
actually stopping us.
but we are in a much better position to do it now. And I think everyone is also more interested in doing it now. Like everyone's kind of realizing that we can do it now. And so I think it's definitely like, yeah, I think I actually do want to like regularly, I say regularly, like at the very least annually, do something. And I want it. I almost want it like that way because I want it to continue to be that way. I want it to be almost like a wonderful tradition we have, where possible to like to find time and space for us to do these sorts of things. I mean, we're also trying to find that in other ways. Like there's already discussions about you and well, I don't believe Solga was able to come to it, but you coming up to Worcester again, with a bit more of a with a bit more leeway that we can give you for like staying places and things like that.
Yeah,
Um, and I think we're coming back round, if that makes sense, to almost like a connectedness that I don't think we had quite before. That we want to keep going, that we want to make like consistent, and we want in a way that I think makes sense as you get older. I don't know if it is an age thing or if it's just like an experience thing at this point, but like I can see how like as you get older, you want to cement, or maybe not even cement, but you want to appreciate the relationships you have in a slightly different way than you used to. Like me and Kester, used to you would spend long periods of time not engaging with one another, and uh, you know, but every time we would engage with each other again, it would just be like back to normal, and we were perfectly happy with that because we loved our relationship enough that it didn't matter that we didn't see each other for a bit or didn't talk to each other for a bit. But I think now, I think it's something we appreciate so much that we want to make it happen more often, and we want it to be more of a thing. Um, it's so much more of a motivation for me for my for my job and my work and what I want to do there. Like having my weekends free and how important that is for me has come out of me realizing that I want to be able to spend time with all of you guys. I want to go see my cousin. I won't say where they are, but I want to go see my cousin. And it would be nice to be able to have weekends available so I could do that way more easily. And so on. I don't want to have an excuse anymore for not going to see him. I want to do that way more than before, and I want to establish those connections and regularly establish them.
yeah, like I think it's fun. I think travel. I really like planning travel. I really like doing the traveling as well. Like my favorite part of most journeys is like the train ride or the car journey there. Um, and then the activity is great as well. But I really like the traveling there. I don't know why I like planes and trains and all that stuff.
Yeah, you might be
But
quite
yeah,
unusual, and I've not heard a lot of people say that.
like especially if it's like good. I just went to stretch and my arm just did not cooperate there. Ouch! Jesus Christ, a lot of pain. All right. With that being said, now time for I've got to do the whole train horn gesture with my arm. Choo choo! Recommendation station. Um, I'm gonna go first because Joe's one's gonna be really long. That's what he says. So Sky
I did
News,
say make this time.
Sky News has a podcast series called The War Game, and it's based off of literal war games that countries play with each other. And they have set up one where the scenario is that Russia has pretty much started an active aggression against the United Kingdom, and they started bombing and then doing like different like guerrilla style attacks against the United Kingdom. And they've set up former politicians and like former heads of different departments of British government and in like academics to come and play different roles. So if you're interested in British politics, you might know like the name like Ben Wallace. I believe he's a conservative. So he's the acting prime minister in this role. He's being prime minister. You have Jack Swift, who was Labour. being his like foreign secretary. You have Amber Rudd being the national secretary. These are all politicians of different political parties in the United Kingdom, and it's really funny because it's quite. It's a little bit scary, but it's more funny because the attacks happened. Russia like hit some missiles, so there's very little casualties all over London. Some ballistic missiles, and it highlights like how weak the UK army is, and how like the British military needs to actually fund self-defense services and all that stuff so we can actually defend ourselves in the event of attack and all that stuff. But I find it really funny that in this little role play scenario, Prime Minister Ben Wallace went to speak to the United States, and of course they made it realistic. So normally when this happens, Article 5 or 4.5 of the NATO convention will be invoked straight away, and we'll have World War III effectively. So they went there and they were like, "Hey, over Zoom or whatever, Microsoft Teams, whatever the fuck they talk on." I was like, "Hey, so can we, we're gonna do this. Can we have your support, please?" And the US are like, "Well, we need you to show restraint." And I was like, "That's very realistic. What will happen right now? Like especially if you look at what's happening in Iran at the moment, where Iran has been attacked by Israel, and everyone's telling Iran to show restraint." Um, I think it's quite funny, and I had a good chuckle about that. And the series is trying really hard to be taken seriously, but it really can't be because it's really quite comical because it's one big old role play, and it's one of them things where it reminds me a lot of like a D&D save, and it's just like people cosplaying as different political roles, and they're trying their best to be as professional as they can. But I'm just laughing the entire way through. So it's supposed to be like a very like thrilling, sort of chilling account of what could happen if Russia were to attack, but it ends up becoming a very comedic show.
Right.
So yeah, I explained it really badly, but because it's one of those things where it's supposed to be taken seriously, but it really, really shouldn't be. Anyway, that's it. Sky News podcasts. You can get it everywhere you want. The war games.
I was trying to. I was thinking as you were saying it, like there exist things like this in real life, like where people set up these sorts of like no shitting on role play. Obviously, I love the shit, but
I know
where they do
militaries
like
do this stuff.
where they do this sort of like war gamey thing, or not even war game, but it's like United Nations. I think it's like the term in America, like where you have like a bunch of people playing a bunch of countries, and you do all of this sort of stuff. Sometimes
Militaries and agencies do these all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun. It's a fun little thing. I've not gone to any of these like things in real life, but there are some real life ones. I wonder if you'd actually quite enjoy it. Yeah, so I actually don't know if my thing will be as long as yours, to be fair. I want to just shout out the Sage Am Slam again, because I've mentioned this before, but there's another one for Street Fighter 6, which is the fighting game that I follow the most and find the most enjoyment out of watching, because I do not play the game myself, and I do not talk about the game online because I have nothing to add, because I am a normal person who recognizes that. But Sage Am Slam is always good fun, worth watching. Sage Am does a hell of a job. Well, having both established the event and in primarily running it. Whether there's help from other areas now, there wasn't previously, so I give a ton of respect to him as a content creator for fighting games and just as an individual. I think he's a stand-up guy. And then the thing I wanted to talk about more specifically was a game called Monster Train 2. There was a game called Monster Train, if anyone knows about it. It definitely didn't get as much traction as I think it maybe should have. And to a certain extent, I think Monster Train, it makes sense because I think Monster Train feels limited now with respect to Monster Train 2. And I definitely stopped engaging with Monster Train as a game. To try and give a slight summation of what the game is, it's a roguelike. We do like roguelikes here. It's more Slay the Spire-esque than like Balatro, for example, in the way that it's like, much more of a standard deck of cards that rotates around a lot of the time, much like Splendor for those who know that sort of game, or Dominion. And although it doesn't play like it, just to be clear, but it's more like it in the sense of you have that deck that will go to discard and then be rotated again, and it's really hard to explain the game, I think, because ultimately I don't think there's any roguelike like it, and I would also argue that Monster Train 2 is significantly better, in my opinion, than Monster Train 1 in terms of what it's trying and what it added to it, and what it also was able to maintain from the original game. It's not that I think it has done a phenomenal job of giving something for people to really work at and enjoy. I don't know if I believe it's out of beta now. I don't believe it's in beta anymore. And I want to shout out the channel specifically for those who are interested maybe in it. This is my personal, I've been a fan of him for a long time. I believe that they're him. I believe so. Rhapsody, which is really annoying because his SEO is terrible. Because if you just type in Rhapsody, Bohemian Rhapsody comes up like a lot. But it's Rhapsody, and then if you put something like Slay the Spire or Monster Train or Blueprints, which I recommended a while ago, he's played those games. He's played other games besides, but I just want to recommend him specifically alongside talking about Monster Train 2. It's a very good game. I recommended it to Kestis. I'm going to recommend it to Alex as well. That he take a look at it. I actually don't even know what it's on. I'm assuming it's on Steam and other places, but I'm not. I think it's actually free on Game Pass. I think Kestis said that when we were chatting the other night. So give it a go. It's genuinely fun, and when I get back home, I am downloading it to have a really good go at it. So I have to recommend it.
Oh, and with that being said, we'll be back hopefully next week with more structured episode, celebrate episode 50. Well, we're probably gonna forget it's episode 50, let's be real here. But yeah, we're gonna take 2 steps to the rear and get out of here. We're in the wind. See ya.
I don't know the Greek for goodbye. I'm sorry. I'm going to say hello. No, that's very